Think about the way progress actually happens. We tend to imagine success as this big, dramatic event, a breakthrough moment where everything changes overnight. But the truth is far less glamorous and far more powerful. It's the small, seemingly insignificant improvements, stacked one on top of the other, that create extraordinary results over time. This is the essence of the 1% rule. The idea that if you commit to improving by just 1% each day, those tiny gains will compound into something truly remarkable. Now, 1% doesn't sound like much. It's easy to dismiss. You won't see an immediate transformation. There's no applause, no fireworks, no life-altering change from one small act of improvement. And that's exactly why most people overlook it. They chase the massive overhaul, the radical reinvention, the shortcut that promises everything, instead of trusting the process of gradual refinement. But if you can shift your mindset, if you can truly embrace the power of marginal gains, you'll come to understand that success isn't built in a day, it's built daily. Let's put this into perspective. If you improve by 1% every day for a year, mathematically speaking, you won't just be 365% better, you'll be nearly 37 times better than when you started. That's the magic of compounding. Tiny improvements, consistently applied, don't just add up, they multiply. This is why the best athletes, the most successful entrepreneurs, and the greatest thinkers aren't necessarily the ones making the biggest leaps forward all at once. They are the ones making small, intelligent adjustments over and over again. Consider the British cycling team. For nearly a century, they were mediocre at best. They hadn't won a Tour de France in over 100 years, and they were so unimpressive that top bicycle manufacturers refused to sell them equipment, fearing it would hurt their brand. But then, in 2003, they brought in a new coach, Sir Dave Brailsford, who introduced a philosophy called the aggregation of marginal gains, finding and improving everything by just 1%. They optimized their bike seats for comfort, redesigned their racing suits for better aerodynamics, and even found the best type of massage gel to enhance muscle recovery. They went so far as to test different pillows to ensure their riders got the best possible sleep. These were tiny changes, barely noticeable on their own, but together they transformed the team. Within 5 years, British cyclists dominated the Olympics, winning 60% of the gold medals. Over the next decade, they won multiple Tour de France titles. This principle applies to everything. If your goal is to get in shape, you don't need to overhaul your entire life overnight. You just need to start with something small, maybe committing to 5 push-ups a day, drinking more water, or walking an extra 5 minutes. It's not about radical transformation in a single moment. It's about consistency. The same applies to learning a new skill, growing a business, improving your relationships. Whatever the goal, small, deliberate improvements create unstoppable momentum. But here's the challenge. The results of marginal gains aren't immediately visible. This is where most people give up. They go to the gym for a week, see no change in the mirror, and quit. They start reading a book a day, but don't feel any smarter after a few weeks, so they stop. The key is to trust that the process is working, even when you can't see it. Because real success isn't about sudden leaps forward. It's about showing up, doing the work, and letting time magnify the impact. And here's the best part. Marginal gains don't just build on themselves. They create a sense of momentum. When you start improving in one area, even in a small way, you begin to feel a sense of progress. That feeling fuels motivation, and motivation fuels action. It's a positive feedback loop. You gain confidence, and that confidence pushes you to keep going. Over time, those small daily wins accumulate into something life-changing. So the question isn't whether small daily improvements work. The question is whether you have the patience and discipline to trust them. Most people don't, which is why most people never achieve their true potential. But if you can commit to just 1% better each day, if you can embrace the power of marginal gains, you will find that over time, the results aren't just significant, they're extraordinary. There's a fundamental truth about progress that most people overlook. Small actions, repeated consistently, create results that are far greater than the sum of their parts. The problem is, we live in a world that worships instant gratification. People want results now. They want the shortcut, the hack, the overnight success story. And when they don't see immediate progress, they assume what they're doing. But real success, real lasting success, isn't built on single massive actions. It's built on the compound effect of small, seemingly insignificant choices repeated day after day. Think about water dripping onto a rock. One drop does nothing. 10 drops do nothing. But over time, those drops carve deep grooves into solid stone. That's the power of accumulation. That's what happens when small efforts compound over time. Each individual action may feel trivial, almost meaningless in the moment. But the magic happens when those actions begin to stack, when consistency turns those tiny, almost invisible improvements into unstoppable momentum. Consider something as simple as reading for 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes doesn't seem like much. It's easy to shrug it off, easy to say, what difference does it make? But 10 minutes a day adds up to over 60 hours of reading in a year. That's the equivalent of finishing 15 to 20 books without ever feeling like you made some monumental effort. Now, imagine applying that same principle to other areas of life. If you save just $5 a day in a decade, you've got thousands of dollars. If you write a page a day in a year, you've written a book. If you improve your diet by just 100 fewer calories a day, over time, that small reduction prevents significant weight gain. This is the difference between people who make lasting change and those who stay stuck. The ones who succeed aren't necessarily the most talented, the smartest, or the most gifted. They're simply the ones who are willing to do the small things consistently, even when those small things seem like they don't matter. The ones who fail, they convince themselves that if they can't make a big change right now, they might as well not try at all. But this works both ways. Just as small positive actions compound over time, so do negative ones. Eating one unhealthy meal doesn't make you unhealthy, but a pattern of poor choices over months and years does. Skipping one workout doesn't make you weak, but skipping workouts over time leads to weakness. Ignoring a problem in a relationship once won't break it, but repeatedly neglecting communication erodes trust until there's nothing left. That's why habits matter. That's why the seemingly small decisions we make every day are so important. Success and failure don't happen overnight. They are the result of accumulated behaviors. And here's what's really fascinating. When you stay consistent with small improvements, something remarkable happens. The progress isn't linear, it's exponential. In the beginning, it feels like nothing is changing. The effort you put in doesn't seem to match the results you're getting. But then suddenly, the momentum builds. The results start accelerating. Think about the way ice melts. If you have a block of ice sitting in a room at 26 DEGF, nothing happens. You warm the room to 27, 28, 29 DEGF, still nothing. You keep going, 30, 31, still no change. Then, at 32 DEGF, everything shifts. The ice begins to melt. Was it that 1 degree that made the difference? No, it was the accumulation of heat all along the way. And that's exactly how success works. The small efforts, the ones that feel like they aren't making an impact, are slowly pushing you toward a breakthrough. This is why patience is essential. If you judge your progress too early, you'll convince yourself that your efforts don't matter. But if you commit to small daily improvements, if you embrace the power of the compound effect, you'll wake up one day and realize you've built something extraordinary. Not because of one massive effort, but because of the thousands of small, consistent actions that compounded into something far greater than you ever imagined. Mastery is impossible without first accepting the messy, imperfect process of growth. Perfectionism stifles creativity, trapping people in cycles of overthinking and self-doubt, preventing them from ever taking action. How many aspiring writers never finish a book because their first page isn't flawless? How many potential entrepreneurs never start their business because they don't have every detail planned? How many people delay getting in shape waiting for the perfect time that never comes. Meanwhile, those who succeed aren't the ones who had ideal conditions. They're the ones who started despite uncertainty, learned along the way, and refined their approach over time. Shifting from perfection to progress changes everything. It shifts the focus to action rather than hesitation, helps celebrate small wins instead of fixating on unattainable ideals, and ultimately guarantees success. Consistent, small improvements compound over time. If you let go of the need for perfection and simply start, you'll look back months or years later and realize that steady progress was far more valuable than an illusion of flawlessness. Success isn't about motivation. While that might sound counterintuitive, motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes. One day you feel inspired, the next you feel unmotivated. Relying on motivation alone leads to inconsistency, and without consistency, there's no progress. This is where habits and systems matter. They eliminate the need for constant willpower by making progress automatic. Your current life is a reflection of your habits, not occasional bursts of effort, but the small, repeated actions you take every day. Your health, career, relationships, and personal growth are all shaped by daily behaviors, not grand gestures. Many believe success comes from setting big goals, but goals alone are meaningless. Everyone wants success, fitness, and financial stability, but wanting isn't enough. What matters is having a system in place that ensures progress regardless of fleeting emotions. Systems keep you moving forward even when motivation fades. Consider athletes. They don't wake up debating whether they feel like training. They have structured routines that dictate their actions. This principle applies to anything. If you want to be a better writer, commit to writing daily, even for just 10 minutes. If you want to improve fitness, create a consistent workout schedule. If financial growth is your goal, develop consistent saving and investing habits. When you build systems, you remove the pressure of decision-making. You don't have to rely on motivation or debate with yourself every day. At first, forming habits takes effort. You need to structure your environment and remind yourself to stay consistent. But over time, habits become automatic, transforming who you are. The hardest part of any new habit is the beginning. Your brain resists change, craving comfort and familiarity. But if you push through, consistency takes over, making improvement effortless. Think about brushing your teeth. You don't question whether you should do it, you just do. That's the level of automation you want with habits that lead to success. Most people assume success requires discipline, but discipline isn't about forcing yourself to suffer. It's about creating an environment where the right choices become easy. Ask yourself, are your current habits leading you toward the life you want or keeping you stuck? If you're not where you want to be, don't wait for motivation. Build systems, design your environment, and make success inevitable. Resistance is inevitable. The moment you try to improve, something inside you pushes back. That voice that says, do it later. Fatigue when it's time to work out. Distraction when you sit down to focus. Doubt when you take the first step. Resistance affects everyone, but the difference between those who succeed and those who don't isn't talent, intelligence, or luck. It's the ability to push through resistance and stay consistent. Resistance wins not by stopping you outright, but by delaying you just long enough that you never start. It convinces you that tomorrow is a better time, but tomorrow turns into next week, next year, and nothing changes. Resistance isn't rational. It's fear disguised as logic. Your brain is wired to keep you safe, avoiding discomfort even when familiarity isn't serving you. The moment you step outside your comfort zone, even slightly, your mind tries to pull you back. But here's the truth. Failure is inevitable, and that's not a reason to stop, it's a reason to keep going. Successful people aren't those who never fail. They're the ones who fail the most because they keep showing up. You don't need to be perfect or the best, you just need to keep going, even when progress seems invisible. Progress isn't always obvious in the moment, but consistent effort compounds in ways you can't yet see. A plane burns most of its fuel taking off, fighting inertia. But once airborne, maintaining speed requires far less energy. The same applies to you. The hardest part is starting, but once momentum builds, everything gets easier. This is why habits matter. If you rely on motivation, you'll fail. It fluctuates and disappears when things get tough. But if you have habits and systems in place, you'll keep progressing regardless of how you feel. Discipline feels hard initially, but in the long run, it makes life easier. When you train yourself to take action consistently, resistance loses its power. Every day you have a choice. Give in to doubt and stay stagnant, or push forward and take action. It won't be easy, but consistency wins. Show up even when you don't feel like it. If you refuse to quit, resistance eventually fades, and once it does, nothing can stop you. The 1% rule isn't just a theory, it's a principle seen time and again. Small, consistent improvements over time lead to extraordinary results. Take the British cycling team. For nearly a century, they were mediocre. In 2003, coach Dave Brailsford focused on tiny 1% improvements, adjusting posture, refining nutrition, optimizing recovery, improving bike maintenance. These minor tweaks compounded, and within 5 years, they dominated the sport, winning Olympic gold and Tour de France titles. This principle applies everywhere. Toyota became one of the most successful car manufacturers through Kaizen, continuous improvement via small refinements. Kobe Bryant became a legend not through talent alone, but by consistently refining every detail of his game. Author James Clear built his writing career by focusing on small daily improvements. One good sentence per day turned into a best-selling book. This applies to you. Whether improving your health, skills, finances, or relationships, the 1% rule holds. If you improve just 1% each day, you'll be 37 times better in a year. Success isn't about massive action, it's about consistent small steps. Most people burn out trying to change everything at once, or never start at all. Real progress happens gradually. Ask yourself, what small improvement can you make today? What if you committed to 1% growth daily? Over time, those small efforts compound, reshaping your life. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't isn't some monumental event. It's who is willing to show up every day and improve just a little. You don't need the perfect plan or perfect conditions. You just need to start. Every action, habit, and decision, no matter how small, is shaping who you become. Resistance, doubts, and excuses will always be there, but if you build the right systems and focus on consistency over perfection, there are no limits to what you can achieve. Success isn't one grand moment, it's the result of daily progress. Choose to improve by just 1% each day, and over time, those small changes will transform your future.